Rosa is 29. She works as a project coordinator in Austin. She has a degree, a stable job, and health insurance. And at 11:47 p.m., the night before payday, she opens her banking app and sees $47. Not because she's irresponsible, not because she's bad with money. Rosa makes $4,200 a month. She paid every bill on time. She just never got ahead. If you know that feeling where you do everything right and somehow still end up here, stay with me. Because Rosa doesn't have a money problem. She has a money architecture problem. And once she understood that difference, everything changed. There's actually a piece of research that explains why smart, hardworking people like Rosa stay stuck, and it has nothing to do with how much they earn. We'll get to it. But first, let me show you the system that fixed it. Here's what nobody tells you when you're starting out. Your paycheck is not designed to make you wealthy. It's designed to keep you functional enough to keep showing up. Look at the Forbes list. You won't find hardest worker on there. You won't find most hours logged. You'll find founders, investors, landlords, people who own things that generate value while they sleep. Jeff Bezos didn't get rich because Amazon paid him a great salary. He got rich because he owned Amazon. Income is what you trade your time for. Wealth is what works without you. Until you really get that distinction, not just as a concept, but in the way you make daily decisions, you can work harder, earn more, cut every latte, and still wake up next month in the exact same spot. So why does this keep happening to people like Rosa? To people who are smart, who actually try. Willpower. We've been sold this idea that building wealth is about making the right choice every single day between saving and spending, investing and waiting. That gets exhausting, and it breaks eventually for everyone. The people who actually build wealth don't have more willpower than you. They have better systems. They automated their decisions. They set something up once and stopped having to think about it every month. That's what the 20-60-10-10 rule does. It's not a budgeting trick. It's a decision you make once, then let run. Here's the breakdown. 20% goes to growth, investments, skills, assets that multiply. 10% goes to stability, your emergency fund, protection for when life goes sideways. 60% covers essentials, the real costs of living, not the inflated version of your life. And 10% is yours to spend however you want. No tracking, no guilt, just yours. This works on $2,000 a month. It works on $10,000 a month. The percentages stay the same, only the numbers change. Most people do this backwards. Spend everything, save what's left, invest what's left after that, which is usually nothing. This flips that. You pay your future self first. Protect yourself second. Live on the rest, and actually enjoy some of it. Let's start with the 20%, because this is the one that changes everything. If you wait until the end of the month to invest whatever's left, nothing will be left. That's not a discipline problem. That's just how humans work. We fill available space. The only fix is to remove the money before you can touch it. Set up an automatic transfer for the day your paycheck lands. Not a reminder, a transfer, before you see it, before you make any other decisions about it. And start now, even if the amount feels embarrassingly small. Here's a number that makes this real. A 25-year-old who puts in $500 a month until age 35, then stops completely, will retire with more money than someone who starts at 35 and invests $500 every month for the next 30 years straight. Same amount, 10-year head start. That's what compounding actually means, and it's the single strongest argument for not waiting until you earn more. Now, where does that 20% go? Think of it like building a house. You don't start with the roof. You work from the ground up. The foundation, high-yield savings accounts and government bonds. Boring, I know. But when you're starting out, protecting your capital matters as much as growing it. You're earning 4 to 5% right now, which at least keeps pace with inflation. That's your base. Once that's solid, the walls, and this is where most people should put the majority of their growth money. We're talking 60 to 70% of that 20%, index funds, ETFs. You're buying the entire market instead of betting on individual companies. The S&P 500 has averaged around 10% annually over the long term. You're not trying to beat the market. You're just trying to match it consistently for 20 or 30 years. The walls are what hold the whole house up. Then the windows, REITs, real estate investment trusts, property portfolio exposure for the price of a single share, dividends from rent, potential appreciation, no tenants, no 2 a.m. maintenance calls. Second floor, individual stocks, but not day trading, not chasing whatever's trending on Reddit. You're buying ownership in companies you actually understand, ones you think will still exist in 20 years. Utilities, healthcare, consumer staples hold through the downturns. Wealth is built by time in the market, not by timing it. And here's the investment most people don't think to count: yourself. A $2,000 course that raises your earning potential by $20,000 a year is a 10x return in year one. No stock does that reliably. High income skills, copywriting, sales, coding, video editing, digital marketing, these are the fastest wealth accelerators available if you're starting from zero. For those with a solid foundation and higher risk tolerance, online businesses, digital products, scalable income. But build the base first. At the very top, Bitcoin Gold collectibles. High volatility, high knowledge requirement. If you can't clearly explain why something has value, you're not investing. You're just hoping. Rosa started with $200 a month into a single index fund. That's it. No complicated strategy. But it was the first time in 3 years she didn't cancel the transfer because the month felt tight. The system made the decision for her. She never had to choose. That's the whole point. Now, the most important thing about any investment strategy, it does nothing if you don't execute it. And execution has almost nothing to do with intelligence. It has everything to do with removing friction. Automate the transfer the day income lands, not when you remember. Automatically. The money moves before you can mentally spend it. And don't just transfer it, automate the purchase too. Income arrives, transfer triggers, assets bought, that's the full loop running without you. Then focus on the real lever, earning more. Wealthy people don't obsess over saving 2% more on groceries. They obsess over making 20, 50, 100% more income. Negotiate your salary, pick up a higher value skill, build something on the side. The same system on $4,000 a month is solid. On $8,000 a month, it changes your life. If this is already clicking, the like button helps YouTube show this to someone who needs it. Could be the Rosa in your life. Now, the 10% most people skip, and skipping it is what breaks everything else. Most people don't have a money problem. They have a stability problem. One car repair becomes credit card debt. One medical bill wipes out 6 months of progress. Not because they're irresponsible, because they have zero margin. One bad month and the whole thing comes apart. This 10% is the buffer that keeps that from happening. It's not an investment. It's not supposed to grow aggressively. It's protection. It's the money that keeps you from making the worst possible financial decisions under the worst possible pressure. Here's the formula. Add up your monthly essential expenses: rent, utilities, groceries, insurance, minimum debt payments. Multiply by 5 or 6. That's your target. If your essentials run $2,500 a month, you want $1,250 to $15,000 in this fund. Keep it in a high-yield savings account. Accessible, no volatility, earning 4 to 5%. Build it slowly. Even $100 a month adds up. And follow one rule without exception. The moment you use it, you start replenishing it before anything else. Treat it like a loan to yourself. Non-negotiable payback. 3 months in, Rosa's car needed $800 in repairs. A month earlier, that would have been a crisis. Credit card, stress, everything she'd built starting to unravel. This time, she opened the emergency fund, paid it, and put money back in the following week. Life happened, she handled it. No spiral, no setback. Just the system doing what it was built to do. Now the 60%. And honestly, This is where most people quietly lose the game without ever realizing they were playing it. They get a raise and upgrade the apartment. Finance a nicer car because they earned it. 2 years later, they're making 30% more and feel just as financially stretched as before. That's lifestyle inflation. It's completely silent. You don't notice it happening. You just notice the money is still gone. Here's the part that takes a while to really land. Looking rich and being wealthy are opposites. The person driving a leased BMW with $400 in savings isn't winning. They're performing. And performance is expensive. The 60% rule forces clarity. Real essentials are housing, food, transportation, utilities, insurance. That's the list. Everything else, the premium streaming bundles, the brand name groceries, the car payment that makes you feel successful, that's lifestyle, not necessity. If you make $5,000 a month, your essential cap is $3,000. If your rent is $1,500 and your car payment is $500, you've already burned through 77% of that before you've bought a single piece of food. That's not building wealth. That's servicing a life you can't actually afford yet. The math on cars is brutal when you run it. A $400 monthly payment over 10 years is $48,000. That same money invested at 8% annual return becomes $73,000. You're not choosing between a nice car and a boring car. You're choosing between a car and $73,000 in your investment account. A $12,000 used Toyota will last a decade. A $40,000 financed SUV will cost closer to $50,000 with interest and keep you financially stuck the whole time you're paying it off. Downsize where it actually matters. A smaller apartment in the same neighborhood costs less and forces you to own less. Use the 48-hour rule on anything over $100. Wait 2 days. Most of the time, the urge disappears. Use cash for discretionary spending because it's genuinely harder to hand over physical money than to tap a card. And one rule that actually works long term, I only buy this if I've wanted it for 30 days, and it replaces something I already own. The goal isn't to live like you're struggling. It's to stop spending money on things that don't actually improve your life, just to signal to people you're doing fine. Rosa canceled 2 subscriptions she hadn't opened in months. $47 a month. She didn't feel deprived. She felt a little stupid, in the best way possible. Like, how long has that just been quietly leaving every month? Small realization, real shift. Now, the final 10%, and this is the one people underestimate. Here's what happens when you cut too hard. You snap. You binge spend out of resentment. You decide the system is too restrictive and go back to the old way. Extreme restriction doesn't build wealth, it builds backlash. The 10% enjoyment bucket isn't a reward, it's maintenance. Keep it in a separate account so it feels distinct from your bill's money. It's a fixed percentage, so as you earn more, this grows automatically. Spend it on whatever genuinely makes you happy. Concerts, restaurants, a weekend trip, whatever gear you actually use. No justification. It's already allocated. That's the rule. One thing worth noticing, though, the satisfaction from buying something usually fades within a week. But you'll still be telling the story from that trip 3 years later. That's not a moral argument. That's just how the brain actually works. Novelty fades fast. Memories compound. When you've got 10% set aside for enjoyment, you start naturally spending it on things that last. And here's what most people discover once they're actually running this. They spend less overall. Not because they're restricting themselves, because they're spending on purpose. There's a difference between buying something you actually want and buying something because you're bored or anxious or trying to feel something. Now, remember that research I mentioned at the beginning about why smart, hardworking people stay stuck? A Princeton study found that chronic financial stress temporarily reduces cognitive function by the equivalent of 13 IQ points. 13. People living paycheck to paycheck aren't making worse financial decisions because they lack intelligence. They're making worse decisions because their brain is spending enormous energy just managing constant background anxiety about money. This system doesn't just grow your account balance, it reduces that noise. When you have an emergency fund, you stop dreading every unexpected expense. When investments are automated, you stop second guessing every financial move. When you have a guilt free spending account, you stop the cycle of restriction and binge. The mental clarity that comes from having your finances in order that shows up at work, in your relationships, in how clearly you think about everything. It's not just a money system. Honestly, the money might be the secondary benefit. Here's what this looks like when it's actually running. The 20% compounds every month without you thinking about it. Your skills compound too. Higher income raises the ceiling on every percentage. The gap between where you are and where you want to be starts closing slowly, then faster than you expect. The 10% stability fund turns emergencies into inconveniences, not catastrophes, not setbacks, just things that happened that you handled. The 60% discipline keeps lifestyle inflation from quietly consuming every raise you ever get. You stop trading income for appearances and start trading it for actual options. And the 10% you spend freely keeps you in the game long enough for the rest to work. Most financial systems fail not because the math is wrong, but because they're not built to last. This one is. 12 months after that night, 47 her account, 11:47 p.m., Rosa opens her banking app. $14,200, not a millionaire, no dramatic windfall, no viral side hustle. Just the system, running quietly in the background for a year. She closes the app and goes to sleep. For the first time in years, she doesn't lie awake running numbers in her head. She doesn't dread the next unexpected bill. She doesn't feel like she's one bad month away from losing everything. That's what this actually builds. Not just the number, the feeling that you're not at the mercy of whatever happens next. The freedom to say no to things that don't serve you. The ability to take a real risk on something that does. The option to work because you want to, not because you have no other choice. Not overnight, not dramatically. But if you run this consistently, staying stuck becomes nearly impossible. If this was your Rosa moment, subscribe. I put out systems like this every week. Practical, no fluff, built for the long game. And if you know someone who needs to hear this, share it with them. That's how Rosa's story spreads.